Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Rendition of Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy, and the world's smartest podcast. All opinions heard on today's show are our own and do not in any way reflect those of Libservative necessarily. He, as always, is Corey Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin.
We're just going to start calling Bell our part-time producer at this point because he's not here. He's probably watching, but he's not here.
He's not watching.
Again.
He's not watching this shit. You know what else I was thinking? I realized
can't trust him to be here
before, but I think it's really funny that we both have like this pre-show like routine, like while the intro's playing when we're sitting there, you know, and you can see our screens down the bottom. You're always like stone faced and stoic and just waiting for it to start, and I'm always hyping myself up. Getting hyped up for the show. I always feel like my energy post intro video is like 100 times higher than it is pre.
By the way, are you connected to the correct microphone? You sound a little off. Can't trust Bell to be here. Can't trust Corey to be on the right mic.
You trust your mother every night to fix your hot pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on.
Yeah, it had me on the wrong mic there, Dan. Nice catch.
There you go. I knew it. I heard it. We got some funny like last minute stories to start with before we get into why Trump has completely failed MAGA, and part of MAGA is pissed, as they should be, and part of MAGA will defend Trump to the very end. There was a Secret Service fight outside of Obama's house.
Yeah. Yes, there was, over tardiness and having the wrong vehicle, from what I gathered.
Said damn DEI, Corey. That's all it was. Why she black? Some
well, brother, you got them all together too much. Their cycles are all synced up.
It was two women. That was the other thing I didn't realize until way afterwards.
Yeah,
it was two women. We would play the video, but it is super boring.
It just looks like two people just shoving each other a little bit next to a car in the corner of the screen. Yeah, there you go.
One broad gets out. The other one was probably a white girl that touched a black girl's hair. Can't do that.
No, it was probably. I think it was two white chicks, man. It was just two white girls.
I'm not sure.
From what I gather, anyways, I'm assuming. But
I didn't know she was black.
Yeah, no, just two Secret Service members just had enough, and they just decided to just.
New footage shows two female Secret Service agents fighting outside of Obama's residence last week, and if an officer called the supervisor to come before I whoop this girl's ass.
Obama and Larry Sinclair had a steaming love affair.
You know, it is kind of a bummer because, like, I don't know if it was a facade. It might have been a facade that, like, some of our institutions were pretty, like, maybe not perfect, but still ran a little bit better than other institutions. And, like, I feel like this is shit you'd see out of, like, Turkey, you know, or some other country like that. And, you know, like, some country that's, like, close to being what I guess you would consider in the developed world developed. And I'm assuming Turkey's probably considered developed, and I'll probably get shit for that. But it's just, this is, like, the Secret Service in the past, few years. Even no, that's not true. I guess they've always just been inept. It's just we're seeing it more because it's kind of like the red car thing. People are looking for it after two botched assassination attempts where it's like, how the fuck did that guy get that close? But then it's like,
there's a guy on the roof, and
but
he's
at
got
least,
a gun. What?
But at least this Secret Service the president didn't die on their watch, and it's happened a couple of other times with Secret Service. So I don't know. Is this a sign that Secret Service is getting worse? Or is this a sign that the Secret Service is just pretty on par to what the Secret Service has always been?
It's just too woke now, Corey.
Fighting in front of a wing camera at the ex-president's house is pretty fucking lowbrow, right?
Oh, like, shit, buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper.
But it's still better than them letting a president get popped in the 60s.
Well, this is why you got two broads arguing over which car they brought. Like, how do you? Wasn't part of the argument that one of them brought the wrong car?
Something like that. Like, I think I read that through a link on Straight Arrow News. And they're pretty unbiased.
Hold on. Let's see what TMZ has to say. A new scandal with the Secret Service. 2 agents have been sidelined after getting into a fight while they were supposed to be protecting Barack Obama's home, and the brawl is all on video. Footage making the rounds on social media shows 2 uniformed Secret Service agents getting into a physical altercation as they stand next to a white SUV. Should have brought the black SUV. That was the problem. Should have brought the gray one. Anything but the white one. That's why. This is DEI. It's always, why is it not letting me keep reading? There we go. Of course, I have to start back from the top. Fuck it. The way TMZ sets up their website, I swear to God, Harvey's got to do something about that. The incident happened outside of Obama's home in Washington, D.C. Federal law enforcement sources confirmed to TMZ. Secret Service tells TMZ in a statement, quote, the U.S. Secret Service is aware of an off-duty altercation that occurred between 2 uniformed division officers at approximately 2:30 a.m. And it was like, dude, it's the middle of the night on May 21st.
It was like early in the morning, like super early.
The feds add, quote, the individuals involved were suspended from duty, and this matter is the subject of an internal investigation. That'll go well. The Secret Service has a very strict code of conduct for all employees, and any behavior that violates that code is unacceptable. Given this is a personnel matter. It's also a personal matter, it seems like. We are not in a position to comment further, end quote. See if there's any good comments here.
Yeah, they'll probably get shipped to being detailed for like who do you think, Biden? That's their
They'll give the shit detail to Biden.
Yeah, they're
no, he needs the best detail. He's got to protect himself from himself.
True.
And of course, the third comment down.
I feel like some presidents, like you remember Clinton and Bush, they both jogged. Obama's like pretty fit. Like they have to like give them like fit agents that like enjoy running and then can also just stop and steady a pistol with a quick draw after running like 5 miles. I feel like there's not that many people that can do that. So they probably give the ones with the who are just shitty at their jobs like Trump, where Trump just rides in a golf cart, or Biden. That's what the original joke was Biden, because he's just shuffling around in the closet, just doing his best. God.
Dude, every fucking comment.
Like Secret Service for Obama, they have to run with him, right? And jog down the street. Secret Service with Biden is making sure all the plugs have the goddamn child protector in it. And that the doorknobs have those like child-proof doorknobs, and the knobs off the stove and oven are taken off.
And
that's what Secret Service does for Biden. No country or assassination group is probably going to come after Biden. Like it's they're like, that we'll wait.
They love him. Dude, every comment. So MJ West goes, cut the DEI BS. But I think he was actually kidding, because he goes, the next sentence is, I'm so tired of you white devil people. This is not your world. The fuck? And then the next
about says, the two Secret Service ladies.
Yeah, Mr. Loudspeaker says, more DEI hires, I bet. Which was responded to by Here to Help that says, no, if they had more, the country would run properly, not on the fly with underqualified candidates. And then the next one says, not a good look for minority hires. Next one down just says DEI.
That's what all the comments say?
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny. Here we thought we were being clever, and it's like the whole internet already beat us to it.
Yeah, no. Then Philly 31 says, Why does he have 2 female Social Security agents on his detail anyway? That was the first one. The next one is not nearly as funny. It's actually, I guess, good news if you are familiar with like economics 101. You were saying right before we started the show, just a few minutes before we started the show, Corey, that the Supreme Court is doing something to strike down Trump's tariffs.
Yeah. And that's the thing that when I see things like this, when any branch of government is being put in check, regardless of the tariff thing itself, which we could get into like how we feel about the tariffs afterwards, but like whatever it is, when a president gets too big for his britches and tries to expand the executive branch, and one of the other branches can just come over and go, "Hey, no," and slap him on the hand and just say, "Stop it." I kind of like that. Objectively, like sometimes I could disagree with what they're like blocking or stopping. Like personally, even though like objectively, I try to advocate for small government and shit like that. You know, I'm all about shrinking the size and scope of the government and your personal lives and economically and all that. Personally, I have a little bit of loot, you know, and stuck in student loans. Like when Biden was trying to do that, I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, that's cool. But the government shot it down.
I just paid $88.
Shot it down, you know, and objectively, it's like, okay, that's good to see the executive powers being reined in. And I think we might just be at that brink because the judicial branch was shooting Biden down for a ton of shit too, right before Trump. And I think before that, I think a lot of Obama's shit was getting fucked with, but he had a liberal majority Supreme Court.
Well, Congress has completely allowed over the last 50 years, Congress has allowed through codifying certain laws the executive branch to just simply have too much power. And the judicial branch is basically the only thing keeping that in check at this point. So yeah, your representatives, you out there, your representatives are the reasons for why not just Trump, it could be any president, signed so many executive orders. And Trump, honestly, like, I don't even blame him for this. Not that I agree with every single executive order he signed, but you can see why a guy like him would come into office and just be like, fuck it, I'm just going to sign all these executive orders. I'll let the fucking court deal with it later.
In court. Yeah.
Let him, and then, you know, with his sycophantic, the portion of his base that is sycophantic,
that they're always
everything he does anyway,
whether it's good or bad. Because it's probably, what would you say? It's like a 70-30 with Trump. Good, 30% good, 70% bad.
Honestly, I think the bad is shrinking because, like, I do feel because
so what would you say? 60-40?
I only say, I don't know what the percentage is, but like I do know that I know a ton of people that voted for Trump because of what he was promising, right? Because so many people in this country took a little bit deeper dive, including us in certain ways, into politics in 2016. Trump brought a lot of people into politics. And I have quite a few friends in my circle that were not that into politics before, and they are now. And they're kind of learning the lessons that we learned with Obama the hard way, or like not the hard way, just the lessons that everybody has to learn when they first get into politics, right? Because
Bernie got me interested, or Bernie got me into it. Trump kept me interested.
The hard lesson that I learned through Obama, that it sounds like you learned through Bernie, is that it's all a fucking mirage. And I tried to warn my friends of that. I think I warned people of that on this show. It's like, listen, I understand why you're voting for Trump based on whatever it is. Maybe you're just tired of Democrats. Maybe you see Trump as an outsider because you're sick of the duopoly. You're sick of the two-party system. I'm sympathetic to all of that. However, I want to warn you that you are probably going to be disappointed. And those people right now are becoming disappointed, whether it's because of the tariff issues, whether it's because of not backing down nearly enough. Although, again, like I said, I said this last week, we're bipolar. We were giving Trump credit for the way he was kind of backing off on Israel a little bit. The money's still going. We gave him credit for that. We'll see where that goes. But whether it's the Israel thing, whether it's the tariff thing.
I think there was just a breakthrough with the Iran deal.
Yeah, it's
now they're talking about it's still shaping out to be like the Iran deal Obama put in place, but
the big one, obviously,
it's going to be the new Iran nuclear deal, which is just like the old one, but it's going to have Trump's name on it.
But it's going to be bigger and more beautiful,
right?
Which brings me to the biggest reason why these people that are sort of new to politics and were excited for Trump for what I believe were the right reasons, but I knew they were going to be disappointed. The big beautiful bill. Here we are with the big beautiful bill. They're starting to understand something that we warned about prior to Trump's inauguration, and certainly through the first month or so of his latest presidency, that, like, guys, Doge is probably a mirage. It's probably fake. And I think in some ways,
who I don't think who thought it was fake actually was Elon.
Well, he does now.
Yeah.
And
he knows funny, now it was fake, but I don't think he did when he was in it. And I think that's why he was being so aggressive. Like, he was literally thinking he was given a task, and his autistic brain just went tasked for hell or high water, and it just pissed a lot of people off.
Well, I also think you have to admit that
it was done in the most clunkiest of fashion.
Well, and not just that, but also the fact that it was a bit of a conflict of interest for Elon. I think, we discussed that. Like, he's obviously going to push
a conflict of interest for him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's obviously going to push things that's going to, he's not going to go after anything that's going to, reduce his defense contracts or anything like that. But, that is kind of one of those, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet,
Right. Because he did also find things to be nixed. And then all the little bit of money that he actually was saving the government, it just all got washed away with this new bill.
And we found out, remember, I think we talked about it maybe a month ago, when we found out that Elon was stepping down from Doge. And we asked the questions. We went, well, is there infighting with Trump? We got two big personalities here that may not necessarily get along at some point. But I think we figured it out.
Lasted 4 months.
I think we figured it out. It's the big beautiful bill. I have Elon's comments here somewhere. Figure out where I put those, because we don't have Bell here to play these damn videos for us.
But I think it also goes to show that, even though it was a major conflict of interest, and that even though it really didn't get rid of as much fraud as they thought there was, because they would dig into things, and then they would talk about all this potential fraud in it, and then they would continue to filter through it, and then they'd stop talking about it because, I feel like the numbers weren't nearly as big as they thought they were. And I think it was pennies on the dollar. I think there's fraud and I think there's corruption, but I think most of it isn't in the stuff he was allowed to even look at.
And I'm not going to shit on the exposure.
Let's talk about the Pentagon.
I was just going to get to the Pentagon. The only thing I was going to mention before that was, I think the exposure of what USAID actually is probably a net good. Right. I think that's probably positive.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, the USA
I'm okay
thing
with that.
Was it brought attention to people.
But speaking of
attention to it,
speaking of the Pentagon, what's happening now? Everything that Doge was able to cut is being repackaged, repurposed in this big beautiful bill, Pentagon, and then just given to the fucking Pentagon.
Never passed an audit. But then they'll have things like,
I don't know about never, but it's been a long time.
I don't think I think they're the only department that's ever passed an audit. ChatGPT that real quick.
I think it's been like 7 years. I'll ask it when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit.
It might be. I feel like it was a little bit. I feel like Jesus. I feel like we were talking. I think in 2018, I saw an article that said not since 2014, maybe No, I don't think ever. They started doing it. They started issuing them an audit in like sometime in the 2000s, I believe.
No, you're right. Because so the Pentagon has never fully passed an audit since it became legally required to conduct them in 2018. So you are correct. Technically, they have never passed an audit. Yeah. So that's where.
And then they're buying like $6,000 like hammers, or espresso makers.
Yeah, and
here's the thing. They're not out there buying some fancy hammer, right? Like that's not it. Everyone, like, people read that and they take that as like factual, right? Like, wow, that must be some expensive hammer. Like, man, could you imagine the hammer that is? Or like a $6,000 espresso machine, and they're like, oh my gosh, like they're just in there just using these fancy hammers that a DeWalt could do the same thing and drinking espressos. That's ridiculous. It's like, actually, no, it's like newsflash. They aren't $6,000 hammers. They're still buying the same hammer, but the rest of that money is getting tucked away to be put into something else. You know what I mean? They're not actually buying $6,000 hammers.
Or they're buying a hammer for $6,000 through a third party that's pocketing profit.
I'm saying it's being written off as
somewhere.
Hammers. That the money is going, the money is being put into either someone's pocket or into some secret program or some new innovation that's like top secret or some project or anything.
Or it's easy to buying the hammer and charging the federal government $6,000 for it. Here's what Elon had to say. It's a short video.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, like,
that wiener.
Everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Honestly, that last statement by Elon is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I don't think it can be both. And we're never gonna have a beautiful bill because they're all massive. And I just want to be very, very clear. I'm talking to Trump supporters here. I don't want to hear after this bill, if this bill goes through, I don't want to hear
anything about Doge.
No. It's not just Doge. I don't want to hear the excuses that were made forever about Trump's first term. People, he was duped and the deep state got him and the people on the inside were all working against him. But he's got it all figured out this time. No, I don't want to hear that shit anymore.
Yeah.
He's in on it one way or another. Jake Uger thinks he's selling pardons because he went on another pardon spree of ultra billionaires.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's true.
But a name like that's either super credible or super non-credible, depending on who the person is.
I just don't want to hear that excuse anymore. I don't want to hear that Trump was duped the first time and he's got it figured out this time. Not with this bill, not with this spending bill. And what I have come to figure out is that conservatives use fiscal spending the same way that liberals use abortion. They sit there and they talk about, we're gonna codify Roe v. Wade, and the conservatives are like, we're gonna have the debt ceiling. But the problem is,
no, I think a more fitting one would be just like Medicare for all. It's the yin to the yang.
Fair enough.
Because
either way,
like abortion is just pro-life. That's the.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. I mean, either way, it's something that your team utilizes to run a campaign on and then not fix, because if they fix it, they don't have that thing to run on for the next election. Do you not see how the system works yet?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to sit there and they're going to promise you, if you're a conservative, spending is going to come down. We're going to fix spending. We're going to fix the debt ceiling. We're going to, we're going to put more money back in your pocket. We're going to lower taxes. We're going to do all these things. And they don't do it because they don't have anything to run on. To your point, Corey, much like Medicare for all, we're going to give everybody free health care. We promise we're going to do it this time. But you got to elect us or we can't do it. Right. And then you elect them And then whether it's under Obama in 2012, when you have the White House and you have both fucking houses of Congress, and they don't, and in both situations, they don't do Medicare for all, but they also don't codify Roe versus Wade.
They also don't codify Roe v. Wade.
And now you have the same thing going on with Trump. You got the fucking presidency and you got both houses of Congress. Oh my God, we're going to fix all the spending.
And they're not fixing the spending.
We're raising the deficit by $4 to $5 trillion. Congratulations. Wonderfully done. Why fix it? We do have 2 adults in the room, though, Corey, at least in the Senate. Obviously, Thomas Massey in the House. There you go.
That's for the permanent government.
Thomas Massey in the House. You know what? I love talking about Thomas Massey, but it just doesn't kind of go without saying that he's always going to be against these fucking bills and he's never going to vote for them.
Yes.
Which video do I have first? I got Senator Ron Johnson first. Now, Ron Johnson, maybe some of you have seen this video. Ron Johnson is a Republican out of Wisconsin that is extremely pro-Trump. I mean, he's been rallying for Trump since Trump came on the scene. But it just goes to show you that some senators outside of the ones and representatives that even fall outside of the realm of folks that you would think are principled, the Thomas Masseys, the Rand Pauls of the world, sometimes others fall into that as well. So here's Ron Johnson talking to Jake Tapper. I don't know why
Jake Tapper
keeps playing. Jake Tapper from the
President
lead
Trump
with Jake
has suggested
Tapper.
That the debt is not really top of mind.
I got a new book coming out.
To fall in line. He wants Republicans to pass the bill. You told CNN, quote, somebody's got to be the dad that says, I know y'all want to go to Disney World, but we can't afford it. I guess I'm going to be that guy, unquote. So how determined are you to be that guy if it actually means telling President Trump you are going to vote against the bill and you're going to try to get other Republican senators to join you unless there are major, major changes?
Well, in 2010, I sprang out of the Tea Party movement, and as I did parades, I would shout, this is a fight for freedom. We are mortgaging our children's future. It's wrong. It's immoral. It has to stop. I haven't changed. My campaign promise in 2010 and every campaign after that was to stop mortgaging our children's future. It's immoral. It's wrong. It has to stop. And so he may not be worried about that. I am extremely worried about that. That is my primary goal running for Congress. This is our moment. We've witnessed an unprecedented level of increased spending, 58% since 2019, other than World War II. This is our only chance to reset that to a reasonable pre-pandemic level of spending. And again, I think you can do it, and the spending that we would eliminate, people wouldn't even notice. But you have to do the work, which takes time.
Dude, it was who was that recently? I think it was was it PBT? It was PB part of the problem. You know, Dave Smith, he was talking about how
the Overton window has moved.
The Overton window has moved to just pre-pandemic spending.
Yeah, which is still absurdly high. Listen, I'll take something over nothing. I'll take a 1% improvement over a 0% improvement. But but Dave was right, and you're absolutely right. And can I just do one of my favorite things to do on this show, which is fucking rant about boomers? Because Trump's attitude here is absolutely boomerish here. Because Ron Johnson's right. Boomers don't give a shit about their kids. I'm sorry. I'm not saying every individual boomer. I'm saying as a collective, boomers don't care.
They give their kids a parachute, right? But like, yeah, when you got all these,
they give them a fish. They give them a fish course. Don't teach them how to fish.
When you got,
or don't allow them to fish, I should say. They won't. They can't afford to buy a fishing pole to fish.
No, they pay someone to fish for them. But when you see like the average age of like the Senate and the House, and they're all in their 70s, you know, and stuff like that, and then they're like, yeah, and you know, we can't keep spending like this. The bottom might fall out in like 30 years. They're all like, well, we're not gonna be alive in 30 years. They don't give a shit.
hoard their wealth. They would rather sell their homes to fucking BlackRock than leave it in a trust for their kids. And
Well,
listen,
I'm sorry. I was talking about like just this, like specifically like the Congress, like, the people, and not like the boomers that are living in the world with us.
I'm just talking about boomers. And listen, I'm not saying as a boomer parent, like you have to give your kids your house, but can you at least
not sell it to BlackRock or Vanguard?
Yeah, can you
Could you at least not sell? Yeah.
Can you at least give us a chance to buy it and stop talking about how we buy avocado toast and too many TVs? Because yeah, we take our luxuries as millennials because that's all we can fucking afford. TVs are cheap.
Yeah.
Avocado toast is cheap. We can't buy a goddamn house. I'm lucky to own one. Actually, I don't even own it. My wife does. But same kind of deal. It's just it drives me insane. And I've heard multiple commenters say this thing, and I couldn't possibly agree more. When you continue to spend like this and continue to increase the national debt, it is like it's like, Corey, if you went out tomorrow and took out a credit card in your son's name and just started buying a bunch of shit with it and said, he'll pay for it later. You would be considered a fucking monster if you did that. You would you'd go to prison for credit card fraud is what you would do.
Right.
But that's exactly what this is. And these boomers in Congress, they don't give a shit. They want the things that they want right now, and we'll take care of it when it's our turn.
Someone just needs to tell the boomers that
life isn't about getting drunk and eating chicken fingers all the time, all right?
The most entitled generation, certainly alive, but maybe of all time. And the irony is,
the boomers, 100%.
Yeah,
they rode the back up
the
greatest generation.
They call us the entitled ones. I'm totally fine with this generation war. I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. And then do you see people try to kick off the whole fucking like Gen Z, like millennial fight? And it's like, what? That's like when I see people talk, like I see people like
TikToks. I'm just curious, is one of your TikToks that Amy Poehler video I sent you?
Oh fuck, I didn't even watch it.
You never even watched it? I'll see if I can find it. Basically what she says is boomers are like, it's all about money. Gen X is like, is it really all about money? And the millennials are like, where's the money? And then Gen Z's like, what is money? And it's so true. It's so true.
Well, there's older Gen Zs now that are popping off and making bucks.
Yeah, but no, like the whole point of what Amy Poehler was saying, though, or at least the commenter in the video, was the fact that
either KI
that Gen Z doesn't know what money is because they never actually touch it. Like, they don't
you're
know how
talking
to
like physical money.
Yeah, like they're like, what is money? They don't actually touch it. Their paychecks go into an account and it immediately goes out to all their bills. And then it's just gone. They have no idea what money even is.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
Our generation's wondering where it is. And we all know where it is.
That kind of makes sense, I guess. I mean, yeah, you do auto pay on everything.
Fucking
what is it?
boomers,
Just in general, the credit card debt is like the highest it's ever been.
Yeah, I mean that's another scam unless you use it right. I mean, I have one credit card that I use that I get 2% back on, and I make sure I pay off the balance every month, so I don't accrue that interest. I might as well take my $2 back on every $100 purchase, right?
Yeah. Okay, it says I'm the guy from Ukraine who asked a lot of questions. I brought more.
Oh boy.
No, that was a pleasant conversation last time. You remember?
It was, but the world doesn't care about Ukraine anymore. With
Jesus Christ,
Israel.
No,
hey,
no.
I'm just speaking as a collective. I'm not saying we don't care.
No,
I'm just
it's
saying
still,
the world kind of stopped caring a little bit.
It's still, yeah, like globally. Nah, I don't know. It started to pick up again recently. Didn't you see any of the recent news, man? It's now America, like, you heard Trump's like thing. He's like, I don't know what happened to that guy. He's crazy. Did you see that? Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
You've done a hell of a lousy job.
And but I think that's still just his bluster, because he also said we'll find out in a couple weeks. Like, we're still planning meeting and stuff like that, and it's gonna be, and he's gonna make a big old show of it, and they're gonna be sitting there in the Oval White House. That's probably the only reason they haven't met yet, because Trump brings in all these other leaders and puts them on the chair next to him in front of a bunch of cameras, and then he just talks shit to them, and then they leave.
Christ.
Very
Am I right?
successful, very rich.
Am I right?
You are kind of right. That is kind of what he does.
He did it to the South Africa's president. He did it to the Canadian president. He did it to Zelensky. He did it to Macron.
You're a moron. Not only are we not going to give you any more money, we're also not going to take any more of your shit.
And he takes the fat shot drug.
I got Rand Paul too. We got to play Rand Paul when it comes to this horrible spending bill. Where are you? See, this is
I don't know if Kay asked to him. You do realize you told a guy from Ukraine that no one gives a shit.
The world doesn't care. What do you want? We care.
Now you say it.
I did say that. I said that before. You weren't listening.
No, I was in complete shock and dismay.
Nobody ever listens to me.
Nobody ever listens to me.
All right, here we go. Here's Rand Paul. We don't have Bell here to play it. So this is Rand Paul on the spending bill. You know what I've noticed, by the way, before I play this?
What's that?
Everybody has to start watching the Sunday morning news shows again, because it seems like that's when Trump just gets hammered for some reason by everybody. Is that like his sleep-in day? I guess.
Or do they know that he's out golfing?
The more difficult it is to get everybody to agree to things. I supported the tax cuts in 2017. I support making them permanent, so I support that part of the bill. I support spending cuts. I think the cuts currently in the bill are wimpy and anemic, but I still would support the bill, even with wimpy and anemic cuts, if they weren't going to explode the debt. The problem is the math doesn't add up. They're going to explode the debt by, the House says $4 trillion. The Senate's actually been talking about exploding the debt $5 trillion. This year in September, when our fiscal year ends, the deficit will be about $2.2 trillion. Now, people used to always say, the Republicans would say, what's Bidenomics? That's Biden spending levels. When March, virtually every Republican other than me, voted to continue the Biden spending levels, which are going to give us a $2.2 trillion deficit. Now, if you increase the debt ceiling $4 to $5 trillion, that means they're planning on $2 trillion this year and more than $2 trillion next year. That's just not conservative. So I've told them if they strip out the debt ceiling, I'll consider, even with the imperfections, voting for the rest of the bill. But I can't vote to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. There's got to be someone left in Washington who thinks debt is wrong and deficits are wrong and wants to go in the other direction. The idea that we're going to explode deficits, and the projections are now looking at over $3 trillion in deficits over the next 10 years, I think is just, not a serious proposal.
Anything to add to that, Corey? It's exactly right. And I love the fact that he says this just isn't conservative. He's absolutely right. Conservatives don't actually give a shit about spending. They pretend like they do so that, their boomer electorate will elect them, and the younger folks that are conservatives will elect them, but they don't actually care. They don't actually care about spending.
I don't give a shit.
Dirty boomers. And another thing is this, and I think Dave Smith also made his point on the last episode, and I thought it was pretty good, which is, why the fuck do we even have a debt ceiling? We don't actually have a debt ceiling. Twice a year, Congress gets together and wastes 2 goddamn weeks figuring out whether or not we're going to shut down the government or raise the debt ceiling, and we raise it every single time. What's the point of even having a debt ceiling? We're going to raise it every time because it's somehow catastrophic if the government shuts down while we, make up some of this bullshit. When it's not, the country will run just fine without the government operating. How do I know that? Because the government doesn't fucking do anything at all. And to the extent that there are parts of government that matter, there are provisions in law that certain things don't generally shut down. National parks, the Postal Service generally doesn't shut down. like the things that actually do a little bit of something. I just want to see the government shut down for like an entire quarter and just see what happens. Maybe I'll be wrong. I doubt it, but maybe I'll be wrong.
Be a lot more trash in the state parks when I'm camping. That'd be kind of shitty.
That part, well, no, because that's not federal employees.
I guess you're right. That's state employees.
State park. We don't need the federal government to run all the time.
So that would be a bill to distribute, right? If the federal government shuts down, all of the funds get diverted to the state government.
Mm-hmm. What do we have next? What about the debt ceiling?
The debt ceiling. Yeah, it's wild that like we have this debt ceiling, and it's like I get it. I get that we have this stopgate we want to put in place, but it doesn't fucking matter because every time we get close, we just raise it.
Kay wants to know what World War III would look like to us as Americans. I don't know what it would look like, but I can tell you what might start it. A war with Iran.
Yeah.
I can tell you that's the thing that might kick it off real fast.
Yeah. I mean, like we're treading on that line, right? Like depending on how America and Europe and Ukraine and Russia all collectively decide how to fucking end the debacle that we're seeing, what's going on with fucking over there, man, because Russia they're acting a fools. I feel really bad about Ukraine because now we're doing the straight up fucking thing that you saw from Confessions of an Economic Hitman. We're stringing them along for all of their access to their rare minerals.
And
we have a reason to prolong this war and not worry about peace as much, but keep giving Ukraine weapons.
I think World War III is going to be, well, hopefully we never see it, but if we do, I think a lot of it's going to be cyber. There's nothing because, well, if you think about it, we're tucked in between two oceans. It's not going to be the easiest to come and actually physically attack us.
Yeah, like that's the thing too. World War III.
What other nations can do is shut shit down.
I was about to say we're across, two vast areas of ocean from either side.
By the way, did you see? Speaking of World War III, Trump wants to build like a fucking iron dome for the United States, kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Talk about something that we don't need and something that probably won't work.
Yeah, maybe not, and maybe won't.
I just paid $88.
We're kind of insulated from the rest of the entire fucking world by two big oceans over here in America, and so like World War III, I'm envisioning popping off as if like the Ukraine goes completely sideways. I could see that being the catalyst for World War III. I see us sending troops, a big draft, which I'm terrified of because if this type of thing developed, it probably wouldn't be for another, 10 years, and my kid is going to be 16 at that point.
We have white privilege.
Ripe draft age, and then if shit goes really sideways after that, and cooler heads don't prevail after a lot of people die, America probably is the first one hit with nukes because you want to kill the source of who's sending everything, because a land invasion in America just ain't gonna fucking happen, and an invasion in America ain't just gonna fucking happen.
Unless we get invaded by the Canadians and the Mexicans.
Even then, no, it wouldn't.
What a
world. The cartel could probably get halfway through Texas.
Yeah, but on their own, with their own artillery.
Right, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, man.
Canada ain't going to be able to do shit.
Those Texans are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They might be able to fend them off.
That's why I said halfway, because the cartel is basically a military. I'm giving them both credit in that statement.
What do you think about this shooting at the Capitol Jewish Museum? So a young man named Yaron, is it Liz? I don't want to butcher this name. Lischinski and Sarah Lynn Milgram, a young couple that were supposedly about to be engaged. I don't know how they know that. Like, did they know that he was going to propose? Not important. Super, super tragic killing by a guy named Elias Rodriguez that, when caught by police, was kind of hanging around the site and screaming.
Didn't he lay a flag down?
Palestine. I'm not sure about that. Maybe. But the rhetoric around this incident is super gross, but also super typical, because you have folks that are on the pro-Palestinian side, which is the side that, to be very, very clear, I fall on. I won't speak for Corey, but I think he does as well.
Yeah. I'm pretty much on saying that the people being oppressed deserve life and dignity and food at the very least. Like,
so unhinged TikTokers that are on the pro-Palestinian side celebrating murder, and you wonder why the pro-Israeli side looks at you as if you're unhinged. Now, to be very clear, the pro-Israeli side has done plenty to make the pro-Palestinian side look at them and think that they are completely unhinged. So we're at a point where this conflict, as far as the way the discussion and the propaganda is spread, has just completely fucking come off the rails. This was a legitimate terror attack. This was basically the definition of what a terror attack is, which is attacking, diplomats at a I guess, I don't know what the gathering was for, but some sort of Jewish event. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you, even though I've personally been called an anti-Semite just because I support Palestine, I do not support this action.
Yeah, no.
This is bullshit.
No,
this
you
is
can
not how
you can also not support, I feel like most people who say that they support Palestine,
but do you condemn Hamas,
yeah,
Corey?
Right. It's all about
I can get Rand Paul's mug off the screen.
I think it's like supporting Palestine is under the premise of just like not killing people unjustifiably and indiscriminately, right? I feel like that's what being like pro-Palestine typically means, but you still have the crazies who like to see death, and it's just, no, I don't want to see death. I don't want to see Palestinians killing Jewish people either, and to make sure you're distinguishing the two, I don't want to see fucking Hamas killing Israelites either. I don't want to see that shit.
But do you condemn Hamas, Corey?
Sure, Pierce Morgan. I condemn Hamas. Like, I could give two shits about a terrorist group.
Pierce Morgan.
A terrorist group propped up by fucking Israel in the first place,
Oh, that's anti-Semitic. Don't say that.
You sure? Is that? I don't even know what anti-Semitism is anymore.
It's any support for Palestinian people. That's anti-Semitism.
Oh, fuck.
So we're both anti-Semites.
And I don't
under the new definition.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Now there is some speculation. I find this so interesting because
do you?
Most of the folks that are pro-Palestine, not all, but most of the folks that are pro-Palestine they tend to come from the left. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So since you have, I guess you could say, more conservatives in power right now, I'm starting to notice that things shift with regards to conspiracies depending on who's in power and who's not. So when folks that you consider on the left are in power, you see a lot of conspiracy theories coming from the right, because it's like this weird way that you can somehow try to bring down power. Well, now that you have the right more in power, you start to see a lot of conspiracy theories from the left. And as you and I have talked about, Corey, some of these conspiracy theories are pretty credible on both the left and the right. Not all conspiracy theories are created equal.
No, I like full caveat. Throw some tinfoil hats on. Whenever we talk about conspiracy theories on here, like I've been saying it for 3 goddamn years now. At this
You
point,
got to say it
man.
again.
We got to
give the qualifier.
We got to make tinfoil hats that when we talk about conspiracies on here, we put them on, because that's all we're doing. We're not making any sort of accusation or any sort of thing like that, but just conspiracies are conspiracies, and it's just an interesting, like, yeah, what if?
The only problem is I can't
What
understand
if-
the word you're saying.
What if human consciousness was from just a random monkey eating a mushroom?
Whoa.
What if this recent shooting at the embassy was a false flag by Israel? Because they shot at fucking 30-some diplomats 2 days before.
That is the conspiracy theory that I was going to bring up here. And I have an interesting video. I have an interesting video here from James Lee. I actually have a couple from James Lee tonight.
That was a great fucking segue.
Little segue. So James Lee puts out an interesting video with regards to the conspiracy theory that this may have been a false flag operation to get people.
Come on now, you expect me to believe that?
That's right. Here we go. Here's James Lee. Oh fuck. God, I guess it helps if I turn the audio on. God damn it, where's Bell?
Okay, I guess I have to say this, but these two people did not deserve to die. I read that he had just proposed
Just
to her,
gotta give that
or was about to
qualifier.
propose to her. Either way, I do not condone what
Always
happened.
got to give that
But what I
qualifier.
will say is that this tragedy was very convenient to the country for which they served, because just yesterday, said country fired warning shots at foreign diplomats who were visiting. A delegation representing 31 countries, including Italy, Canada, Egypt, and the UK, had to run for cover.
And China and Russia.
Their official story is that they had fired warning shots at this group of diplomats and journalists because their tour had veered into an unauthorized area. Ryan Grimm commented that even if every word of that story is true, it is still a deranged, unhinged thing to do, to which I say I completely agree. Anyway, a day later, this other
And kind of illegal against
and
the
I'm not saying
Geneva
that this
Convention.
isn't a
shit.
coincidence, but the end result is that today the media cycle has completely shifted. Okay, the same search terms are now conveniently yielding very different results. Funny how that works. Anyway, the last thing I'll say about this is that I think it's just a really bad sign for this country that a heinous act of violence like that happens, and a not so insignificant percentage of the population thinks either A, they had it coming, or B, that it was some kind of false flag operation perpetrated by the victims themselves. Not an ideal situation, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so that's kind of the interesting thing that people that think that this was a false flag operation point to. And you have to say that is pretty interesting. The fact that Google search terms, the same search terms, completely shifted to this event from the diplomats being bombed just the day before.
Right. Yeah, something like that isn't necessarily generic. Someone like, obviously, if those SEO terms were pulling up the other articles, it could be innocently explained as someone was using, you figure the terms Israel, Palestine, shooting, like the search terms, you could see why it would bring up something more relevant. But you know what?
You work for Mossad, Corey?
A little deeper.
Corey works for Mossad. That's what nobody knows.
If I do, I get paid nothing. like my whole job is Mossad. Like everything I do is just this. Like I'm in like fucking what's that Jim Carrey movie? The Truman Show.
Yeah. Either way, whether this was a false flag or not,
But Mossad did in fact say that on wait, what was that? The 60 Minutes, or was that BBC when they said the whole world's a stage?
Yeah, and they're the puppet masters. Which me saying that is probably anti-Semitic.
Well, shit, you didn't say it; they did.
Well, yeah, but me saying that they said it, that qualifies. All I will say is this: whether it was a false flag or not, it gives you like those weird sort of 9/11 vibes of like Israel's certainly not going to let this tragedy go to waste. Mossad's certainly not going to let this tragedy go to waste. They're certainly going to use it to their advantage.
I just hope that our government doesn't let just some crazy piece of shit shooting 2 people in front of a museum dictate our entire foreign policy trajectory.
Well, he won't, Corey, because he wasn't the last one to walk out of the Oval Office. Because that's all that really matters when it comes to Trump's policy making.
Right.
Especially when it comes to foreign policy.
You've done a hell of a lousy job.
Did you see NPR suing Trump? They're suing Trump on free speech grounds, even though what is NPR's budget from federal grants? It's like 1%.
I think it really is 1%.
Let me ask ChatGPT, what is NPR's contribution? Should I say contributions from tax dollars?
So AI on Google says NPR's budget from the government, primarily through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB, is relatively small, accounting for approximately 1% of its total
1%.
budget.
It says less than 1%.
And a slightly larger amount indirectly. A significant portion of NPR's funding comes from member stations, private donations, and corporate underwriting.
Say
which
what you
is like 1% is negligible, but that's, I guess, some money. You lose 1%. I don't know if you necessarily feel it. It feels like a drop in the bucket. But when you read that, like it's only 1%. Like this is supposed to be a public radio, and it's like just 99% funded by foundations and like essentially private donations.
Yeah, and say what you want.
And then they pretend that they're not biased because they don't have advertisements when there's advertisements all over it. This is brought to you by the Koch Foundation. And then at least at least in the very least, when they do go to talk about one of those,
how much does Trump give to NPR?
I just paid $88.
But whenever they do talk about a topic that does touch one of their donations or donators, they go, and just so you know, for
out there,
I don't know, my kid's being a typical 5-year-old, and but yeah, they say this next subject is discussing one of our donors for visibility's sake or whatever they say. They do say that shit.
I mean, and say what you want, like NPR, even if it's just 1%, it just means it's 1% state media. Like I don't support state-sponsored media.
Right.
Although certain people would say, well, yeah, I've heard you say that you listen to Joe Rogan once in a while. That's state-sponsored media, right? Trump was on his show.
Well, no, Trump being on his show is a far cry from the budget of your operations coming from the government.
Yeah, our tax dollars aren't going to Joe Rogan.
Right. And our tax dollars really aren't going to NPR either.
Clearly not.
1%.
Yeah, and like the fact that they're suing is an absolute joke. First of all, it's not a free speech violation for tax dollars to not go to media. That doesn't apply to freedom of a press, right? NPRs can still exist. They can still exist as a nonprofit. They can exist through your donations, through my donations. Not that I would ever donate to NPR, but if you like NPR, by all means, give them as much money as you feel you can. I don't give a shit. Like a free speech violation would be like if Trump tried to shut down NPR. That's not what he's doing. He's just trying to take away the federal funding for NPR, which I support. Sorry to say. All 1%. Even if I didn't support it, who would care? NPR would be just fine.
I just paid $88.
Oh, it's dumb. Do you want to get to this?
And if you really care, go and get the premium subscription to their news podcast. It's like $3 a month, and then you can be donating to NPR.
Do you want to get to this Colorado deadnaming law, or
I can honestly give,
or where did the 100? Hold on, I'm going to give you a choice, because maybe we'll do one, maybe we'll do the other, maybe we'll do both. The other choice is, where did the $100 million from the Fire Aid concert go? Gonna have James Lee tell you about that one.
Ooh. I didn't, yeah, where did that go?
You seem interested in where did the $100 million from the Fire Aid concert go? James Lee is not a member of the show, but he's going to tell you about it as soon as I get it pulled up here.
Interesting. I just remember the Fire Festival. You're talking about the Fire Festival, right?
No, I'm talking about the concert that was put on to support the California wildfires.
Oh, I thought you were
100
talking
million.
No, I thought you were talking about the Fire Festival on that island with the pigs running around and shit.
Yeah, and that guy tried to do a new fire festival too. after he, I think he was in jail or something. But here we go. Where did the $100 million from the Fire Aid concert boondoggle disappear to? Here's James Lee. He'll tell you about it.
Benefit concert might be one of the biggest scams in disaster fundraising history. And as usual, I'm bringing the receipts. First off, according to reports, the Fire Aid benefit concerts raised over $100 million, supposedly for LA fire victims. But since then, residents have been asking, where did all the money go?
$100 million raised for residents, community things, and funds that are supposed to help with Palisades, and there's no accounting or where the money went. They're not telling anyone.
Let's figure this out. So, according to the Fire Aid website, it says that all direct donations will be distributed under the advisement of the Annenberg Foundation. According to the IRS 990 form, the Annenberg Foundation is a 501c3 based in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, in this lovely office building. One massive red flag right away is that only 33% of their annual expenses goes towards actual charity programs. The rest goes to administrative costs like executive compensation. And if you look at the numbers, they treat pretty good over there, starting with top dog Cynthia Kennard, who's making $750,000 plus another 6 figures in bonuses, which is basically almost 7 figures just for one person there. Here is Cynthia, aka Cinny, hanging out with Gavin Newsom, discussing or strategizing about things like how to solve homelessness, among other things. This is one of those if you know situations. Anyway, just to give you a point of comparison with another nonprofit, Doctors Without Borders, they spend almost 90% of their money on actual programs versus less than 1% on administrative costs. Local journalists have also been asking, where's the money? They found, quote, the Fire Aid website names only 3 Palisades organizations that receive grants, among almost 120 organizations listed as receiving grants, none of whom are specific to Pacific Palisades. And those 3 are Kehelet Israel, Chabad of Pacific Palisades, and Palisades Charter High School. Others have tried to directly reach out to the Annenberg Foundation. They were kind of given the runaround, various extension numbers, somebody saying they would call them back. No one called back. Also referring them to some mysterious man named Philip, no last name. He was never found. This is just crazy. So essentially what they're doing is taking the $100 million, then paying themselves roughly 70% of it, and then the rest of the money they're dishing out to various other nonprofits with their own administrative expenses. And that's how $100 million just ends up disappearing, allegedly.
Allegedly, as he always has to say.
Jesus.
Isn't this just a microcosm? But isn't this just a microcosm of how big government works?
That is pretty much a microcosm.
It's essentially how big government works. Oh, where do our tax dollars go? Oh, we use it to pay this company who pays this company and sells the Pentagon a hammer for $6,000.
Right.
Dude, it's just
wild.
gross. It's like this charity is a business, and it's really, really unfortunate. And government involvement in these charities does not help, doesn't make it any better, doesn't make them function any better. James Lee's done a lot of work on the homelessness problem in California. It's essentially a big business at this point. Why is it a big business? Well, because these nonprofits get to come in, they get to collect your donations, they get to collect government grants in a lot of situations. And the thing is, if they solve homelessness in California, they don't have a purpose anymore. So it's sort of this facade of, oh yeah, we're doing all the work. Yeah, we're opening shelters and we're doing all these things, and it's all really good. We're trying to solve homelessness in California. Meanwhile, homelessness just continues to increase in the state of California. Well, why is that? Well, because the people at the tops of the organization, such as this lady that was collecting for the Palisades wildfires, they don't have a job anymore. They don't get to collect their 6 and 7 figure salaries anymore if they actually solve the problem. This is what big government does. They convince you that they convince you that you need them so that they can solve the problems, but then they don't solve the problems, because if they solve the problems, they don't have anything to run on for their next election and continue justifying their government salaries. Did I miss anything? I'm done.
That's it?
Yeah, you got TikToks, or you got anything you want to add to that? Or
what was the other thing you wanted to talk about?
Oh, this dystopian Colorado deadnaming bill. I had it in front of me.
It's a state bill. It's not a federal bill, so it's like my interest in it is nil. But
well, what if it comes to your state?
Right, but hopefully this will probably make it through the courts, and hopefully it gets shut down.
There are going to be some legal challenges to this for sure.
If I meet a trans person personally, and they say to me, or if I have a friend, like if they're my friend, I care about them regardless.
Before you tell this story, should I tell the folks what this bill is?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is House Bill 25-1312. They named it after somebody. Also known as the Kelly Loving Act, named after a transgender woman killed in 2022. And it's meant to symbolize support for trans rights. So what it includes is things like coercive control in custody cases, which means the courts must, not may, but must consider deadnaming, misgendering, and threats related to gender affirming care when determining parenting time in custody. Now that's the part that I have the biggest issue with. Some of the other provisions in this are parental rights protections, where Colorado courts cannot enforce out-of-state laws that remove children from parents for allowing gender-affirming health care. Chosen names in schools. So schools must ensure inclusive policies for students who adopt a name different from their legal name. It also includes gender-neutral dress codes. Schools cannot enforce gender-based dress codes, allowing students to choose variations that reflect their identity. Public forms and chosen names. Government forms must allow individuals to provide both legal and chosen names, with the chosen name used in future documents unless legally required otherwise. And then it kind of adds to the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, where it classifies deadnaming and misgendering as discriminatory acts under the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, though legal name use is permitted when required for verification. So you can continue with your point if you remember it. I know you're PhD.
No, so it's basically like on a personal level, if I have a friend who says they're transitioning and I care about them, they're my friend, I'll do my damnedest to just call them the different name. I'm not an asshole, right?
Sure.
If I meet a trans person and they're probably just in the very beginning of their transition and they clearly look like a guy, but they say that their name is a girl, I'll use the girl name. I'm not an asshole. But to try to get the government to just force this, first off, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. The Fifth Amendment strictly talks about the letting the government force you into saying things like, what does it say? It says No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or an indictment of a grand jury. Be held to answer for a capital. Essentially, like being told you have to say something if you don't want to say it.
It's coercion. That's coerced speech.
Yeah. Coerced speech is generally considered unconstitutional under the First Amendment of the. Oh, okay. So also under the First Amendment Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Fifth Amendment gives you the right to just not say anything, and is
You
there
have the right to remain silent.
Right? Does it in the First Amendment? Okay, yeah. So I guess by saying you have the freedom of speech, it would also implicitly, or would imply that you also have the right to not say something, because it's the freedom of speech, regardless of it being.
Even so, Corey.
Yeah.
Even so, Corey. If your name's used to be Jack and now Julie, and I call you Jack, those are words.
Right.
Words are not a crime.
And I would even be one of the people that would stand up for someone who is trans. You know what I mean? If they're sitting there and they say they're trans and they're trying to, and they're saying, no, I'm a Julie, and they're like, you look like a Jack, but call me Julie. Yeah, but you used to be Jack. Like if it was in some weird scenario that I'd be around, that would none of us, it's probably like I feel like it's like so hypothetical.
And Corey, it's so funny because this law is almost completely pointless, because that's how most people feel. If you're an adult human being and you've changed your name from Jack to Julie, most people will call you Julie. Nobody cares.
Right.
Yeah, there are people out there that are assholes and be like, I don't stand for this. You're
And that's not the
bad.
down talk, how that makes someone feel, right? But it's like there's people that are assholes. I was called Cornelius a bunch of times in high school, and that's not my name. Just because
you. Well, it's like the
you know what I
equivalent
mean, and then it's like
the equivalent of when I was a kid. When I was a kid, everybody called me Danny, right? Like that's kind of like the little kid's version of my name. As I got older, I preferred to be called Dan. I still have people that knew me from when I was a baby, certain aunts, uncles, friends of my parents that still call me Danny. I don't give a shit. I don't care. But technically, I'm being dead named. No, because that's what they know me as. That's what they call me. But I'm being dead named. That's not my name. You can't call me that. Can you imagine me taking that to court?
It's just this is equivalent to like using the hand of the government to force people to just say things in any aspect. It would be like it's kind of the same as them saying that they're going to put the fucking 10 commandments in a school, right? Because it's freedom of speech. And then and they're coercing you into having to see the 10 commandments or learn about them in school, because that's what the founding fathers made our principle, even though that's not true, but they try to say that the Constitution was based on the commandments.
Okay, you're saying if the state were to do something like that,
or forcing everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, forcing you to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. This is no different than that.
The 10 Commandments thing, just to add to that, like if a Christian student, like say there's no policy about like what you can hang on your locker door, right? I mean, within reason, right? No curse words or whatever. There's always rules of some kind, right? But if I'm a Christian student and I want to put a copy of the 10 Commandments on my locker door, as long as there's no rule that says nothing on locker doors, I should be allowed to do that. Now, but if a kid comes in and has their fifis hurt because they don't like the fact that they have to look at the 10 Commandments on my locker door, being forced to take those down to me is a free speech violation, unless there's an actual school policy that says we're having clean locker doors. It's one of those things where
you could even switch that out with someone who just puts like something that's like gay pride.
Sure, but that would be allowed. I think is how a lot of the red pill crowd would feel about that. And I understand where they're coming from.
Right. I understand
where they're coming from.
I understand where either side's coming from. Right. But it's like forcing that just feels like that's just it, forced. Like
it's compelled speech.
It's compelled speech.
This is absolutely going to be challenged. The thing
it's probably not going to make it all the way to the top. Even it's probably going to get overturned.
Honestly, from like a constitutional, legal, and principled perspective, there are parts of this bill that I kind of support. Like, for example, honestly, gender neutral dress codes. Like, I don't fucking.
I've never
care.
been to a school that had dress codes, and it sounds like, and whenever I would hear about it, I was like, that sounds like.
I'm sure they did. Like, no profanity on your shirts, right? Remember, you'd see kids with inside-out shirts or whatever because they had profanity on their.
Yeah,
shirt.
if you wore a
Something
shirt,
like
if a chick wore a shirt that was too revealing, or if a guy wore
that
a
kind of
shirt
thing
that had like paraphernalia or like anything like that on it, they would.
As long as the same rules apply,
they would give you a shirt that just says "I love school."
As long as the same rules apply, like if I was a principal, I'd actually have a little bit of fun with this, right? Like, okay, gender neutral dress codes, that's fucking dope. If you're a trans girl, yeah, you can absolutely wear a blouse and a skirt, but it better go down a certain length, especially if you got a dick. But also, like can't show cleavage. You can't show cleavage. None of the cis girls are allowed to show cleavage, so you are not allowed to show cleavage either. Like, I honestly, if I was a principal, I'd have a little bit of fun with it. But like gender neutral dress codes, I actually don't really care. Like, if you're a trans girl and you're wearing modest female clothing as pertains to the school dress code, fine. Who gives a shit?
I don't know. Uniforms seem pretty pinko to me, brother. Seems pretty communist to me.
Well, you know what? It's something I did look into, by the way, with regards to this. This does not apply to private schools. So private schools can still have gendered dress codes.
Oh, private schools can keep their privates private.
Correct. The other part of this bill that I kind of support is, where was the other thing? The part of the parental rights protections that says Colorado courts cannot enforce out-of-state laws that remove children from parents for allowing gender-affirming care. Even from like a moral perspective, if in certain situations, I think that a mother or a father has Munchausen's by proxy and is fucking transing their kid, I kind of in general always support a state law that doesn't make you enforce the laws of other states, because that's kind of the point of states. Right. We talked about this when it came to when Roe v. Wade was overturned, when you were hearing certain pro-life states saying that they were going to prosecute a young lady for going out of state for an abortion. In that situation, they are doing something that, yes, is illegal in your state, but is not illegal in the state next door. You have no constitutional basis to prosecute them for a crime that they committed in another state that was not a crime in another state. So I don't really have an issue with that part. The biggest issue I have with this law is the coercive control in custody cases. So courts must consider deadnaming, misgendering, and threats related to gender-affirming care when determining parenting time and custody. And so I think of like this anecdotal situation, because we know, we probably even know people in our own personal lives, Corey. Everybody knows somebody who's gone through a nasty divorce, right? Just real nasty. A lot of times they have kids. Sometimes, thankfully, they don't. But I can just see a scenario where mom or dad, because I don't want to gender this thing, decides that 4-year-old little Johnny is now Jill. Doesn't tell the other parent. And now you have a situation where you go to court and you can use the fact that they've been deadnaming that child over however much time.
Yeah, or even
secure custody.
Even if it wasn't something like that nefarious, right? Like
dad disagrees.
Yeah, mom
disagrees.
The child is generally confused, gender dysphoria, DSM-5, description, textbook, and one parent wants to take them to a psychiatrist that wants to talk them through it, and the other one wants to take them to a psychiatrist that says they should just do a gender, a transition.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're in this courtroom. Both of these people deeply love their child. They're both trying to get them help. They see two different paths. And the dad, who has just as much of a good faith argument and just as much love for this child, who sees it should be done this way, because he's saying he's not acknowledging that the kid is going through a gender transition. He gets nicked and the child goes the other way.
And
all because they both were seeking professionals with PhDs, just different routes.
Yeah.
Or something that is considered, and even in the trans community, is still considered, gender dysphoria is still a mental illness. There's two routes that people can take on that. With professionals, with professional help.
It's just another situation where, dad's situation where, dads already get the short end of the stick in custody battles. We know that. That's not news to anybody. You know what I mean? And and now it's just another legal hurdle. And we're essentially, while dead naming is not,
and it could go either way. It could be the mom, that wants to do it the way, like the Jordan Peterson way, and then the other one wants to.
I doubt it. I don't think Jordan Peterson has a whole lot of female listeners.
No, but you know what I mean? Like going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist that looks at gender dysphoria is like, you don't need to fuck your whole body up.
This bill to me is ultimately pretty dangerous. I think it's a violation of the First Amendment. And while it doesn't specifically say that dead naming somebody or misgendering somebody is a crime, it is kind of considered a civil infraction, right? And I also think about teachers in this situation. Like, so think about a scenario that so many of us have actually been through in our lives, where a trans person, you've known them by a certain name for, in my case, 20 years, and all of a sudden they change their name. I don't have a problem with the fact that they changed their name, but wow, I'm sorry, I accidentally called you by the old name because I'm operating on autopilot, as so many of us do. Imagine a teacher who has a student that they've been
in
calling
one class of 7 of 40 students in each class, and he just has a laminated sheet with the names for the seating chart.
Yeah, and gets
Doesn't
fired.
even remember their names. He just sees their name on the list
and gets fired
because
they had a little slip and called them by the wrong name. And even you could even say they even like, sorry, I didn't mean to call you Jack. What I meant to call you was Jill. Oh, doesn't matter. You dead named me. You committed a civil infraction. You're fired. Can't imagine why people don't want to take teaching jobs anymore.
I was lucky enough that one of my friends who transitioned, his name was like a asexual name. Like, so he didn't change his name because it was a name that he could.
It was like a Jesse or a Jamie or something like that.
Yeah. And so, when he transitioned, and was like trying to grow a beard and stuff like that, I was able to tell him, like, yep, W, you just do it like this, and was able to say the same name and not have to worry about any of that shit.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I go by the Dave Chappelle moniker of, to what point do the rest of us have to take part in your identity? And also, I'm sure your friend is like this, because this is what I've noticed with people with genuine gender dysphoria. Dude, and I know I've said this on this show multiple times, when they're not just kind of in the ideology and looking to have power in a situation because there's somebody who has no power, playing the victim, when they have genuine gender dysphoria, dude, they just want to blend in. They just want to blend in like the rest of us. They want to make their transition and just live their lives. And like what I've noticed about the ideology is that it's always the people that are and it's not even just in trans ideology. There's so many other areas where this applies. There's fucked up people that have had shitty lives that have been abused, or they've just never had any power or any confidence, and they find a community that gives them power and gives them confidence, and they wield it like a fucking weapon. And that's what people hate.
Right. Well, not even that necessarily. I think that is fine, right? It's when it gets commercialized and corporatized. Because if you've noticed, a lot of the big corporations, as soon as they hopped on this grift wagon of supporting this minority to make a quick buck, the temperature on the whole trans debate was just through the roof. Everybody was fucking talking about it. But then when the grift was exposed, essentially, and all the corporations like reeled back a little bit, and they're not making it such a thing to make so much money on. This is the first time, and of course, it's either big corporation or big government that raises the fucking, the temperature on this type of bullshit. And like, when's the last time have you even heard any controversy about trans people? Little murmurs and that shit still happens, but it's nowhere near what it was.
Well, Kathy Griffin did just come out with TMZ and say that she's worried that there's going to be an attack on Pride.
What do you mean?
She's worried about the safety of trans people during Pride Month. We're coming up on Pride Month. She's very, very concerned.
Who's going to attack them? You ain't going to find no fucking conservatives at a Pride event.
Well, unless they're like driving a truck through a parade or something. We have seen that before on many occasions. But it's like, that's the whole
I don't
thing.
think that would happen.
She's
a lot like most of the conservatives are just like,
even if
the culturally conservatives, they're just like, you stay on your side, I'll stay on mine. I'll just
but like, here's the thing, Corey.
Don't force me to live your life, and I won't force you to live mine. It's like how they are. I don't think they're gonna take a day out of riding their Harley Davidson or working on their 69 GTO to go drive their F-250 through a parade.
But the problem is this: even if God forbid,
unless they just lost the custody to their child because they accidentally dead-named them in a court case.
Yeah, you want to talk about like right-wing people losing their minds and driving a truck through a pride parade. But even if God forbid it does happen somewhere.
But that's what it is. I feel like a lot of shit is a weird catalyst like that. And then they turn around and go, oh, he's just this homophobe. And it's like, no, he just had his life destroyed over bullshit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of similar to like when Zionists call being anti-Israel the same as being anti-Semitic. Like, nothing is perpetuating Jew hate more than that stupid rhetoric. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to sit, like, there's a lot of weak-minded people that if you're going to sit there and call me an anti-Semite, or you're going to sit there and call me a racist, or you're going to sit there and call me a transphobe, that are just going to go like, fuck it. Fine. I am one now. I wasn't trying to be. I didn't want to be. But you've labeled me that anyway, so I might as well lean into that moniker. I think that's a lot of what we're seeing with Kanye, to be honest. He's obviously a fucking nutcase anyway. But it's like, how long have people been calling him an anti-Semite? And maybe he actually is. In fact, I kind of believe that he is. But he's turned up the temperature on that shit because people keep talking about him, right? He keeps staying in the lexicon. He keeps staying in the zeitgeist because people keep running around talking about how much of a horrible anti-Semite he is. So, yeah, he releases a song called Heil Hitler with fucking 30 black guys wearing a swastika t-shirt.
That's so absolutely insane.
And if you just stop paying attention, if he just went away, yeah, he's got a lot of money and he can continue to produce stuff like that. But if you just let him go away, and we're guilty of it, dude. We talk about this shit all the time. We're no better. We're no better than anybody else with regards to that.
Actually, this is the world's smartest podcast.
It's the world's smartest podcast.
World's smartest podcast.
Let's get to your TikToks, Corey. You got them ready. You got 4. We're already an hour and a half in.
All right, well, you already played the Elon one.
Oh, you were going to play that, so you got 3 left.
Yeah, so I got 3. So
Perfect
this one
number.
right here is a video talking about Texas and it's just so funny because all these right-wing comedians who I love and think are hilarious have recently, like, they talk about how free their state is or whatever, right? Sorry, I'm filibustering.
That's okay.
But then this,
I did find that Amy Poehler video, by the way.
Oh, did you?
I did. It's only 11 seconds, though.
This legislature legalized hemp 6 years ago, but instead of regulating this booming industry in our state, we are now going backwards to the days of prohibition. This bill is not going to stop Texans from smoking weed or eating edibles just because politicians and
What a square.
not to. Texans will still use THC, but
Well,
instead of getting
nerd.
it safely from a local small business, they'll now get it from the black market, from the drug cartels. This ban is a gift to the cartels. We are now telling full-grown adults how to live their lives. This is the nanny state at its worst. This is big government at its worst. I thought the Republican Party believed in limited government and personal responsibility. I thought the Republican Party believed in liberty and freedom.
Boy, were you wrong.
Right.
They don't.
To tell an adult what to do on their own time. We are now about to throw Texans in jail for seeking relief that's safer than alcohol and less addictive than tobacco. Instead of fully funding schools, expanding access to health care, lowering costs of childcare, this legislature is focused on banning a product that gives people a little peace. Texans use THC to lessen anxiety. Seniors use it to manage chronic
Somebody's
pain.
bought
Our
my
veterans
big
use it to
cannabis.
treat PTSD. With this ban, we are now making people's lives harder, not easier. I want to leave you
Very
with a quote.
successful, very
It is
rich.
time to end needless arrests and incarcerations of adults for small amounts of marijuana for personal use. That wasn't a Democrat. That was President Donald Trump. To my Republican colleagues, I'm asking you to oppose the cartels, stand with President Trump, and vote no on this insane bill.
This is just small government policy 101. This is the stuff we talk about. This is the whole, if you ban some, this is the lesson we should have learned after prohibition ended in the early 1930s, that when you ban something that people want, they still get it. And they get it by going on the black market to get it. That's the argument for just legalizing drugs. At a bare minimum, decriminalizing drugs. I would take that compromise to start. But
well, it's a whole racket, man. It goes all the way back to Nixon. And it goes all the way back to the 13th Amendment. Honestly, it's the 13th Amendment being exploited because the second half of it, after it says in the beginning, like, no more slavery in our country, it says unless you're imprisoned. And if you over criminalize every single goddamn thing, you could throw people in prison and use them for slave labor. Like, we have like
Kamala Harris.
Yeah, perfect example. We have prisoners doing the work of trained firefighters fighting wildfires for like minimum wage, if that. You know what I mean? Like, they're, it's a racket. And when you have these private prisons, you make contracts with the prison and the state, and then the contract states that the state has to give them so many prisoners to fill the beds. If they don't, they have to charge extra. And then these private prisons constantly work against the prisoners and their reformation, and like keep them past like their actual like sentencings. It's a mess.
They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it.
That's
then
your
here you
former
go.
vice president.
This guy, you ever see this guy, the next Bob Dylan?
I have.
We talked about him earlier. We talked about this topic earlier. I thought this song was pretty
At
good.
the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., a Chicago man took out a gun. He shot a young man named Yaron, a young lady named Sarah, and he made no attempt to run. And they died on the ground as he entered the building and gave himself up to the guards. He shouted, "Free Palestine," as he's cuffed from behind, and now he's alive behind bars. Now Yaron and Sarah are together in death before they could be wedded in life. More people will die out in Palestine for justice is blood in this fight. Now out in the strip, a young soldier gets word of a couple that would not be wed. And as he takes aim, he knows just who to blame for the children and women all dead. An eye for an eye till we're all good and blind. What more is there really to see? It's a big teeter-totter of violence and slaughter, and the recess bell never rings.
I just thought it was a good little ditty.
I had a tear.
You had a tear? You had a tear in your beer?
Mm-hmm. Dead air.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. What is going on?
Is it not playing?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it was pulling some. I was hearing audio from like the next TikTok, but I had a different TikTok up, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I froze.
That's why we need is Bell. Stop being part-time. I'm telling you.
You trust your mother every night to fix your hot pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on.
Dead air,
No!
dead air, dead air. And then our favorite little East Coast leftist.
They, them are pretty funny.
One way of many ways that you can tell that blue MAGA is so full of shit, that liberals are so full of shit, is that they've been going on for a week about Bernie Sanders on Andrew Schultz. He's laughing it up with Andrew Schultz, who's so right wing. I'm so sorry. I don't take
Votes Democrat.
don't take you guys seriously. You have shown your ass so many times. You guys are so full of shit. Because where the fuck were you when Gavin Newsom was palling around with Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk is like okay? He's like an open white supremacist. Charlie Kirk is a lunatic, Zionist, transphobe, sexist, like anything you can think of that's extreme, Charlie Kirk is. But
if I see a black pilot, I'm going to
podcast. No, in fact, he went even further in the other direction by saying, "My son loves you. I wish more Democratic men were like you." And let's not even get into the fact that he had Steve Bannon on. Yes, that's Steve Bannon, and was palling around with him too. So I'm so sorry. I'm not taking seriously all your crocodile tears about how Bernie Sanders went on Andrew Schultz's podcast and criticized the Democratic Party when you had nothing to say about Gavin Newsom hanging out and praising actual white supremacists. Get the fuck out of here. You guys don't have a problem with the fact that he went on Andrew Schultz's podcast. You have a problem with the fact that he criticized the Democratic Party and your pathetic bootlickers to power.
be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
I feel like she should have a cigarette when she's talking, right? The whole time.
Does sound like she smokes a lot.
I think it would just add to her.
They sound like they smoke a lot.
But yeah, it's like I have libertarian, fundamentals, but god damn it, leftists are just so fucking right almost always, unless it comes to the economy.
Or when it comes to like we always say,
solving the problems.
Leftists can diagnose the problems, but their plans for fixing them are not good. Not good at all.
Not good. No. Because their plan for fixing them is ultimately a band-aid, because it leads right back in a full circle to what we are at right now, because big corporations would not exist without big government.
Well, they want it. That's the thing with like they want to fix the problems with government by growing it.
Yeah.
It's
when
like,
it's already huge and we can't trust it now. You think Yeah.
Keep you to keep you reliant on it. And honestly, like
You
I
gotta
don't
go back.
know.
You gotta read Hobbes. You gotta read Locke. You gotta read Aristotle about how democracy itself is actually not the greatest. You need something more like a constitution. It's either Hobbes or Locke who talks about how the government, you need it, but it's a necessary evil and it needs to be kept in check. Even Karl Marx talks about how the workers must be armed. Like it's just no. You need a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Find yourself some.
That means letting the people do their fucking thing and breathe.
Find yourself some Murray Rothbard, some Hans Hermann Hoppe. That's the libertarians you should be reading, the Ludwig von Miseses of the world. But yeah, she nails it. It's and leftists. Here's how you can tell the difference between like a leftist and a liberal is people like her that like leftists will all day dog shit the Democratic Party, and they'll do it from the left because and this is another thing that drives me nuts about certain factions of conservatives when they look at somebody like Joe Biden and call him like a socialist or a leftist.
I know, dude. It's
like you are out of your fucking mind. There is nothing leftist about anybody in the establishment Democratic Party. They are absolute shills for corporations.
The Democratic Party is nothing more than a maintenance crew.
Maintenance for Wall Street.
Yeah, maintenance to keep the status quo.
Dude, it's so interesting, right? Because like we've had this political realignment going on for some time, and we've talked about on this show all of the ways in which Donald Trump in this last election, and even going back to 2016, beat Democrats from the left.
Yeah.
You know, draining, you know, the draining of the swamp, not that he like followed through on it.
I didn't follow through with any of it.
But at
he
least
was a goddamn genius when it came to campaigning.
At least when it came to what he campaigned on, like getting corporations out of government, getting Wall Street out of government, getting government out of the pockets of Wall Street or vice versa, that is supposed to be something that comes from the left. And that's where Trump came from. At least on the campaign trail. Now we're starting to figure out that he was full of shit. But
yeah, and at this point, I feel like most people, they're all just a bunch of dirty centrists who are super populist with their own like prerogatives and self-interest, and they just cling on to whatever one that fits that.
No, and the last thing that I'll add seems to have become a moniker of this show, which is people fucking love authoritarianism. They think that they don't, but they love it. They love it as long as their morals fit with whatever the authoritarianism deals with.
I guess it's because like, and you see it more from Democrats. I feel like than you do conservatives, right?
Right now, because they're the ones out of power.
No, I'm saying the dogma.
Oh.
Of the idea that just...
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I feel like people on the left and the right, like, they have this incessant need to have somebody have control of the wheel because it's far scarier to think that no one's even touching it.
Yeah, because they think the cavalry is coming to save them, and it just isn't. It's never coming. The cavalry is never coming.
We are the cavalry.
Right. And that is one of the key points that I try to get through to people, that they always want to have this left-right argument. And I won't have it with them because it's the wrong argument. Like, you want to tell me Democrats are worse than Republicans, or you want to tell me Republicans are worse than Democrats? I'm not listening to you, because even if one is marginally worse, it's like the bar is so low. The fight is not between Republicans and Democrats. It's the thing that Hannah Cox says all the time. And it's one of the things that she says that I absolutely love the most, which is that Republicans aren't your enemy. Democrats aren't your enemy. Your enemy is the government. And it should be class warfare. When I say class warfare, I'm not talking about
Molotov cocktails.
No, I'm not even I'm not even talking about like because the guy across town is richer than you. You should be at war with him because you're poorer than him. When I say class warfare, I'm talking about the everyday person that's just trying to live their life in liberty and all of the power classes, the donor class, Wall Street, politicians.
Right. Yeah, like if you like the people you run into on a day-to-day basis. If you have a boss and he's making an extra zero, like a big boss, and he's making like an extra zero on what he makes compared to what you make, I would even group him up with you. He still has to show up to work every day. He still you still run into him at the grocery store. You still like the people that you see in your everyday is the people who are in the same class as you. Because the super, super rich and the super, super elites and the ones that are using that money, not for their own personal like fun with fuck you money to fuck off and buy 100 acres and build a moat and all that shit, but instead using that money to influence politicians. And then the people that are that are in that elitist group of the ones pulling the levers, like the politicians and stuff, who have aides that go and get all of their food and they're completely isolated from everyday society and they look down on all of us. That's the group. The bourgeois, right? The elitists. The 1%.
Don't sound too much like a Bolshevik when you're having this here, Corey.
No, it's just it's the oligarchy, the crony capitalism. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's the class warfare.
Yep, and it just points to something we've said many times, and we'll keep saying it until it doesn't apply anymore. If you supported Bernie and he's disappointed you, and you supported Trump and he's disappointed you, guess what? You guys are on the same team. And the sooner you realize that and why, the sooner the I have to say this correctly, the nonviolent revolution can begin. Oh, did that hit your soul?
Because that's the beautiful thing about the Constitution is the parameters are already there for you to actually make this happen. It's just everyone's got to get their head out of the sand and stop fighting with their neighbor.
All right. You got anything you want to add on to the end of the show, or just tell the people where they can find us and we can get on out of here?
Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today.
He as always has been Corey Walsh.
Just fucking subscribe. The new episode comes out every week. You might not catch the live stream,
He as always has been Corey Walsh.
He's been Dan Griffin.
It's been Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. The world's smartest, I think we should start saying internet show, because we're not just a podcast. The world's smartest internet show. And until next time.
We have white privilege.
And we are out of here.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back. Somebody must lead, or else the fight would not be made at all.